was provided. The credit union was able to attain a 7.63% delinquency level, and this was due to some significant effort from the staff and the management of the credit union. Loan interest receivable provision is $24 million as compared to $2 million in 2015. Other assets provision is $19.6 million for 2016. Our table here shows our total provision budgeted against actual. In 2012, we had a budget of $53.7 million. The actual was a $101.212 million. That move in 2016, we had a budgeted provision of 121.7, and we actually had achieved $151.6 million. The credit union undertook a number of strategies to improve the provision. And with consistency and focus for the entire debt management team and increased sensitivity of the entire COK Sodality family towards delinquency, we intend to gradually reduce our position to approximately 7% at December 2017. The branch managers continue to play an important role, and I should say the branch manager and all hands on deck with their staff are really going all out to ensure that they bring this under control. Strategies to improve provision. In order to achieve the aforementioned delinquency targets, the debt management department has continued to pursue strengthening the internal processes to include increasing individual collectors' daily targets, staff incentive program being put in place, changing the priority within the integrated collection management system to ensure that accounts with the greatest dollar values of arrears are targeted first versus what obtained before. Increasing payments, accessibility, and channels for members to pay loans on a timely basis. Continue to increase focus on high-value accounts, that is accounts over $2 million, which account for the greatest percentage of the delinquency and provisions monthly. This focus includes the Chief Financial Officer, the Debt Management Unit, Manager, and Senior Collector having daily oversight on these accounts. Return to investments. As of December 2016, the investment portfolio was $1.9 billion compared to $1.78 in 2015. Interest income earned from investment was $112 million compared to $129, and as you know, there have been some fall off in interest rates. Interest income earned on investments was above budget by $12.9 million. This was mainly due to strategic long-term investment in secure corporate bonds that yielded higher returns than GOJ instruments. Our next slide, we have a graph here which showed the total investments for the period 2012 to 2016. In 2012, our investment $2.288 billion, and there has been movement over the year. At the end of 2016, it's $1.9 billion. Savings and deposits. The savings portfolio increased by $385 million to $7.1 billion at the end of 2016. Interest expense on deposits decreased by $18 million, or 9.64% to $171 million for 2016 compared to $189 for 2015. The credit union had to be very aggressive in the financial market and offered a number of savings initiatives to attract and retain savings. Despite the increase in interest costs over the comparative period, our cost of funds was lower than planned, resulting in savings in interest cost of $21 million. Most importantly, our members continue to exhibit confidence in COK Sodality Credit Union, as is evident in the increase of $385 million in year-over-year savings. And I think at this time you can all give yourself a pat on the back. And we have the comparison between the shares and the savings deposits, which is displayed in this graph over the period 2012 to 2016. And if you follow the numbers, the ratio seems to be pretty steady, the amount of shares compared to the savings and saving deposits from 2012 straight through to 2016. Membership permanent shares. The credit unions, adult and cares, new membership were 5,272. Yes, that's the growth. The numbers grew by 5,272 for the year, and 2,336 for the cares, respectively, in 2016. Permanent shares increased by $36 million when compared to 2015. We now have over 81,436 members being fully compliant out of a total of 272 adult members. And being fully compliant means that these are people who have permanent shares of $3,000. Several initiatives were implemented in 2016 to encourage our members to become permanent share compliant. Our graph here shows the permanent shares from 2012 to 2016, 361, 865 in 2012 to 537,010 in 2016. So you can see that there has been a steady growth. The way forward, the strategic objective for 2017 financial year are to grow our loan portfolio by $1.45 billion. Increase savings to fund our loan growth by 9.59%. Reduce the delinquency ratio to 7%. Increase interest income by 43%. And boost capital adequacy to achieve the 2017 capital adequacy ratio of 11.25%. We look at the capital adequacy analysis over the period 2013 to 2019, or 2017, and then projecting for 2018 and 2019. We noticed that the pearls, which continue to be 8%, our capital adequacy, we in 2013 were 7.58, and that number has moved up and down. At 2016, it's at 9.72, projected to be at 11.25 at the end of 2017, and projected to be at 11.75 by the end of 2019. The credit union will boost its capital adequacy ratio by increasing its permanent shares through membership growth and compliance, and the planned contribution from surplus of approximately $75.28 million for 2017 financial year. I think you will all agree that 2016 was a year that had a lot of challenges, but the credit union, through its management and staff and the board, did its best to really chart the course and to carry us safely through the end of 2016, recognizing the profit that it did. And despite the various challenges associated with the operating in a highly competitive environment, COK Sodality believes it is well positioned to return to sustainable surplus. The credit union remains committed to providing financial assistance to its members in a cost-effective, sustainable, and efficient manner. We are a safe repository for savings and investments, and despite the fragile and challenging economic environment in which we currently operate, we remain very positive in our ability to play an important part in fostering financial independence and creating wealth for our members. COK's primary mission is to improve our members' well-being, and we will continue to provide those opportunities for you, our valued members, to achieve your goals for years to come. I wish to thank the management and staff of COK Sodality Cooperative Credit Union for remaining steadfast in their duties to the organization. It is never easy to operate in a dynamic and ever-changing financial environment. Thanks also to the cadre of volunteers who unselfishly give of their time and talent and were very forthcoming with ideas and suggestions about improving the credit union. Special thanks to the Department of Cooperative Credit Union and Friendly Societies and the Jamaica Cooperative Credit Union League for their guidance and support during the year. Thanks to our auditors, KPMG, who conducted and completed their audit in a timely manner. Finally, as Treasurer, I am grateful to you, our valued members, for your continued support of COK Sodality Cooperative Credit Union and the opportunity to have served in this capacity. Thank you. Well, you have had the Treasurer's report and you've had the audit report presented to you. At this time, I just want to ask if there are any questions. We would be willing to take them at this time. Yes, Mr. Can you
O'Sullivan for the record.
Thank you.
I heard you said that the small business is doing well. Let us raise hand to them and big them up, because if them are part of the system and doing well, we will all be well off a little more. That is the first part of my commendation.
Thank you,
The
sir.
second part is that in our serious problem that we have, some of the cause of it, we have to find a solution for the gated community where some of our good members hide and behave like they are untouchable. So we have to sit with Lady Asamba and work out a way with the policemen who are in those areas that we can go in to get what is rightfully ours. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. Your comments are noted, Mr. O'Sullivan.
The financial statement.
Can I have your name, please? Sir?
Livingston Young.
Okay, thank you.
You done the financial statement, please? Not it?
The financial statements are on pages.
No, me say it's that.
Yes.
All right. You could turn to page 28. We stated
28?
note D.
That's
Note A.
minutes.
Yep,
That's
note A.
Page
Page
20.
28.
28. No, can't be 28. What? Oh. 100 and
430. What is it?
Oh, 130.
No,
page 128, you mean?
yeah, 130. Sir.
133, okay.
130, thank you. 130.
Yes. Yes, sir.
And note A. group and the corporate, subsidiaries and other receivables. I can explain to me the dash between 2016 to 15. Explain to me what dash mean and subsidiaries and receivables. You see it? Subsidiary and other receivables, right? Other receivables.
Yes. At this time, I'm going to ask Mr. Andre Gooden to come and. Sorry, Mr. Wilbert Spence, the auditor.
What it actually means is that for the group, you'll notice that there's a dash. It's really a consolidated financial statement, which means that the balances are eliminated between the parent and the subsidiary, or the parent and...
Hold it, for 1 month to 2016, right?
Right, you're looking at the dash.
Right. And
Right.
next month at 2015.
And I'm telling you why I have the 2 dashes there.
Yeah, all right.
The reason why I have the 2 dashes there, it comes under the column that marks group.
Right, yeah, that must it.
Right. So as far as the group is concerned, you have a group, you're doing a consolidation. So balances between the parent and the subsidiary, you eliminate them on consolidation because you present them as one. You can't really have a balance owing from one party to the other party in a group because it's one person now. So the group is one person, so you can't hold yourself. So for the cooperative,
Right.
that amount, the 14 million and 13 million, is the amount due from the subsidiary. But when you consolidate it, you have to eliminate that. In other words, you cancel it out. So you're going to have a payable in the subsidiary, and you have a receivable in the parent. You put them together, it's a debit and a credit, so it comes to nil. Have I explained that correctly? You understand what I've just said?
Yeah, me hear you. I hear you. Yeah.
Okay, in layman terms, okay. You and I, let's say a father and a son. Father and a son, right? The son owes the father.
The corporate,
The cooperative, that is the credit union. The group is the credit union and COK remittance. So those are 2 entities. COK remittance owes the society, the cooperative, the credit union. The group is a combination of the credit union and COK remittance. The fact that COK remittance has a payable to the credit union, it means that the credit union also has a receivable from the remittance. You follow? Now when you combine both of them together, it's really a debit and a credit, so it nils out, and it is 0. In the group, I don't know if I can explain it any better.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, note C. Key management and responsible. Once responsible. Response. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Compassion is as
Sorry, Mr. Young, can you speak in the mic, please?
Yeah. Note C. Management and responsible compensation is at the following. You have the corporate, note 2016 to 15. Oh, it's the same thing. All right, all right, okay.
Same thing.
All right.
Do you have another question, Mr. Young?
Yes. Turn to me to page 14. No, 126. Sorry, 126. 126. Savings and deposit. You can explain to the balance at the beginning of year. Added new deposit. Losses, withdrawal, and transaction.
Less withdrawals.
Yes, less withdrawals and transaction. Balance.
And transfers.
Transfers. Balance at the year ended. You can explain to me these figures, please, guys don't really understand.
It's the same thing. It's, okay, you have something in your pocket at the start of the period.
Because you have the pocket with...
You put some more money in there.
Yeah.
You took out some.
Yeah, me here.
And you have some left at the end of it. That's it.
bracket? Where's the bracket? Yeah. All right. All right.
Okay. Are there any other questions? If there are no other questions, can I ask someone to move for the adoption of the... Sorry? Jeffrey Tavares, and seconded by Errol Coombs. Thanks. Crooks, Errol Crooks. Thank you very much, Mr. Crooks. All in favor? Any against? Any abstention? The ayes carried. Thank you very much. Over to you, Mr. President.
You won. And I'll thank you, Mr. Spence. I will now ask the treasurer to present the budget, which should be found on page 51 and 52. We'll just present the highlights.
Yeah. If you turn with me to page 51, you have the budget for 2017. No, sorry. I think you have started from 50. Page 50. Page 50, sorry. On page 50, we have our budgeted interest income for 2017 is 1,105,426. And our expenses of 368,151, leaving a net interest of 737,275, and then we have our other expenses coming to 365,658, making our gross margin before operating expenses of 1,092,000. From which we deduct our operating expenses of 1,017,000, leaving a net profit for the year of 75,282,000. Okay. Okay, thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Millen. We now invite... Yes, sir. Yeah. Not hearing it very well, Mr. Winter. Could you speak in the mic, sir?
The third column on this, on page 50.
Yes, sir.
Which is the variance.
Variance. No,
the
I
last,
spoke-
sorry.
I think he spoke to the budget. He didn't speak to the variance.
Oh, the number is still incorrect. That number should be, the total comprehensive income should be 28,755,000 versus 24,664,000.
Noted. We look at it, Mr. We'll now ask the chair of the credit committee, Mrs. Catherine Gregory, or a rep from the credit committee, to come forward to present the report. And so I'm told that Mr. Errol Beckford will present.
Thank you, Mr. President. The report submitted by the chairman, Mrs. Catherine Gregory, who unavoidably is absent, has been circulated. I therefore ask that for motion that the report be taken as read. Moved by Mrs. Pat Walker, seconded by Mr. Errol Crooks. The report is stated, members. I shall not go through the reports, but just to highlight one or two areas, particularly the objectives of the credit department for the year 2017. Among these objectives, further training of team members, identification and deployment of additional resources to support the unit in high volume situations, further refinement of the loan process, MIS-related activities to include enhancement of reports, activities that will foster tighter collaboration across all departments within the loan value chain, and automated solution to improve the monitoring of loans. And the recommendations I commend to you among these will be the use of technology to enhance and improve on education loans, micro-business loans, retirement planning, partner loans, the loan program for seniors, family indemnity plan, home equity loans, debt and dormant accounts, loan reactivation, lowering of fees, and overall financial inclusion. On your behalf, the Credit Committee would like to acknowledge the assistance of the management and staff as we exercise oversight responsibility for loans approved by the credit union for the year 2016. We wish to thank our fellow volunteers for the support during the year. We would also like to thank the members for reposing their confidence in us, and we look forward to serving you in the coming year. Mr. President, that's the report of the Credit Committee for the year 2016. Are there any questions? There being no questions, Mr. President, I hand over to you. Adoption. Would somebody kindly move for the adoption of the Credit Committee report? Moved by Mr. Errol Gregory, seconded by... on a point of order, you can't move Errol as a member of the committee. So, what's your name, sir? Mr. Livingston Young will move for the confirmation of the report, and seconded by, what's the name? Miss Thelma Williams. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for your presentation. We'll now take the report from the Supervisory Committee for the year ended December 31st, 2016. We'll start the chair, Ms. Carol Williams, to present. You can't stop at talking.
Fellow cooperatives, good afternoon. It is both a pleasure and a privilege for me to present to you the report to the AGM from the Supervisory Committee. I would like to think that you've all been able to read it, and if so, can I have a confirmation that you've all read it? Can I have a motion? Thank you very much. And can I have a seconder, please? Can you let us have your name, please? Thank you. I would like to. I would, however, like to highlight some of our achievements during the year under review. The members of the Supervisory Committee attended regular monthly meetings of the Board of Directors, Finance and Policy, Joint Credit Committee, Debt Management, and Audit, Risk and Compliance. At these meetings, we joined with other volunteers in deliberating and making critical decisions to promote members' interests. Careful execution of the planned audits resulted in heightened appreciation of the organization's policies and procedures, resulting in improvements being reflected in internal controls. Also, with the identification of some risks, we were able to act as agents of change in risk management and mitigation strategies. The Supervisory Committee members welcomed such involvement in this, resulting in our making a significant contribution to the growth and development of the credit union. I would also like to point out that the Supervisory Committee wishes to acknowledge the Board of Directors, management, the administrative support staff, joint credit and other committees for their tremendous work during the year. We also appreciate the continued supportive work of the internal audit staff. They are indefatigable during the year under review and for their unwavering support to this committee. The members of the Supervisory Committee are proud to be celebrating yet another year during which COK Sodality has performed creditably despite treacherous financial pathways. To our valued members, all of you, we say a hearty thank you for affording us the opportunity to serve you over the past year. It was both a privilege and an honor to have been of such service to you. As chairman, I say thanks to the members of this committee for placing duty above self, and voice my appreciation to all the committee members for their sterling commitment and dedication. Let us all continue unswervingly in our commitment to work together as a team, eyes focused on COK Sodality vision, which is to be the leader in all markets we serve by being a member-focused, financially sound, profitable, and technology-driven organization with a highly competent and motivated team. Thank you very much, and may God bless you all. Are there any questions coming out of the committee's report? No questions? There being no questions, can I ask for a motion for confirmation? All in favor? No, we need to get the names. Who moved and who seconded? Can I have your name, please? Pauline Bailey. Seconded by? Can I have your name, please? Yes, sir. Carol Lewin. Thank you very much. All in favor? The ayes have it. Any against? Any abstention? Then the ayes have it.
Motion carries.
Motion carried.
Thank you very much. That's why we are cooperators. We help each other. Thank you, Ms. Williams. Next on the agenda is report of the delegates of the Jamaica Cooperative Credit Union League, AGM. So I now invite Ambassador Samba to present the report. I have been tasked with this responsibility because at the time the ambassador was not a delegate. This report can be found on page 82 to 84 of the annual report and should be presented for information purposes only. May be taken as read. Have a move on a seconder, please.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Hold on, Mr. Berg. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Mr. Lewis, and seconder name? Thank you, Philippa. What's your first name again, Mr. Lewis? Sir? For the recording secretary, Mr. Lewis, can you have your first name? Yes, yes. Oh, Mr. Tavares, sorry, sir. Can you get your first name, please? Okay, thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, yes, Mr. Burke.
were there 2 annual general meetings in the last year? Was the credit union movement called to a meeting in Ocherios or wherever, Montego Bay?
No.
And there was no annual general meeting, and the credit union, all the credit unions were forced to expend money for delegates to serve in the hotel and so forth, and then the meeting was not called because the report wasn't ready, the finances or whatever was not ready.
I know there was one annual general meeting, Mr. Burke, and the question that you have positioned, I think is best sent to the league for them to address that issue.
Okay, so therefore let us deal with it now. Let us deal with it now.
No,
because
hold on. Hold on, Mr. Burke. Hold on, Mr. Burke. Hold on, Mr. Burke. The question that is being requested from the members is question relative to the report that was submitted and read.
I see.
All right, I am not competent to address that issue. What I will do, I will ask the CEO to note your question, request some information from the league and forward same to you outside of this meeting, sir.
Mr. Chairman, please
Yes,
do
sir.
not try to cover up anything.
I am.
Please do not try to cover up anything. Was this credit union forced to spend money on a meeting that did not take place? That is my question, and the meeting has a right to know.
Mr. Burke, you don't have to shout.
Yes, I do if you are covering up, sir.
Mr. Burke,
If you are covering up, I do have to shout.
Mr. Burke,
And you seem like you are covering up.
Mr. Burke, I have addressed your
You have not, sir.
your
The
question.
meeting has a right to know. Did the credit union
And-
spend money on a meeting that did not take place? Because I
We-
want to move a resolution.
We went to a meeting, a convention in Montego Bay.
Right.
At that convention, we were informed that the AGM
Would
has
not
been,
take place.
let me speak, Mr. Burke. That meeting has been deferred to another date
Right.
in Kingston at the conference center.
Right, okay.
And therefore, there were no extra spent for the AGM, Mr. Burke.
But was money spent on a convention on the understanding that it would be the annual general meeting, and money was spent by the credit union on hotel fees?
Mr. Burke, as I said before, we went to a convention. At the convention, we were advised that the AGM was deferred to Kingston, and therefore the money spent, whether or not the AGM was held at the convention, that same money would have been spent. Therefore, the credit union did not have any spent outside the amount budgeted for the occasion.
Mr. Chairman, there have been years when the meeting was not held in Ocho Rios, was held here, maybe at the conference center or somewhere else, austerity or something. But if we are on the understanding that there was a convention or a seminar and you went to that seminar, that's one thing. But it was with the understanding that the annual general meeting should have taken place. The meeting was, the credit unions, from what I understand, were not informed of a postponement, and the credit unions were forced to spend extra money on a meeting that did not take place, and that is not right. And I think that this credit union should have a motion of censure on the league. It should be in every credit union for forcing credit unions to spend money and waste money that should not have been wasted. And I so move a resolution, whereas the credit union, COK, was invited to the annual general meeting, and whereas it did not take place at the time, and whereas there was expenditure that was incurred, be it resolved that this meeting of the COK Sodality Credit Union sends the strongest possible censure to the Credit Union League, and hopes and prays that it will never take place again, and that in future, if the annual report is not ready or the finances are not ready, that they are informed before. That ends my resolution, and I'm asking for a seconder. Please, because our money has been wasted. I have read it. I've given the resolution. I've given the resolution. Huh? No. The thing is, a meeting took place on the understanding that there would be an annual general meeting, and the credit union spent money to go to that meeting. And when they went there, they were informed that the meeting did not take place. Right. Okay. All credit unions, and I have moved a similar resolution in another credit union already. Right.
Okay, Mr. Burke.
Which was passed in that one.
All right, Mr. Burke. There's no seconder, so we'll move on.
No, you didn't ask for a seconder. You didn't ask for a seconder.
Yes, sir.
Don't put up with it. Your money has been wasted. Don't put up with it.
That's a very idiot.
I don't know if anybody else knows anything about this meeting, but I personally didn't.
So I'm telling you.
So if anybody else knows about the meeting, then enlighten us about the meeting.
The board knows.
Okay.
Mr. Samba?
No, I'll address this, sir. Okay. As a delegate, annually we go to a convention at a place designated by the league. At that convention, we have various activities. Among the activities usually is an AGM. Yes, and as a delegate of COK, we participate. At the most recent convention, we were advised that the AGM would be deferred to another date in Kingston. The point that Mr. Burke made was that we wasted money in attending this convention and having to spend more money in going to the AGM. I rebutted that to the extent that we, with or without an AGM, we would have gone to the convention because it is an all-encompassing convention. The AGM was deferred to the conference center. in Kingston, which we attended, at no cost to us delegate or to COK, and therefore no additional sums were extended.
That is not so, sir.
I'm telling you, Mr. Burke, don't challenge me. I was here.
I will challenge you,
I am a delegate, and I came here to the AGM. Okay?
Sir, you don't have to go to any convention. You have to go to the AGM. And you went there with the understanding that the AGM would be at the convention, and therefore money was spent. There is a principle involved here, sir, that you are, whether deliberately or unable to see it, but there's a principle involved here that is wrong. There's a principle involved here that is wrong, sir.
Mr. Burke.
The Credit Union League should be censured for that. It was on the understanding that the AGM would take place within the convention. You do not have to go to a convention as a credit union, but you have to go to the general meeting. Right? That is what you have to go to.
That is correct, Mr.
Right,
Burke.
sir. And you went with the wrong understanding, as far as I'm concerned, the credit union was misled that the annual general meeting would take place, sir. And no matter what you say, sir, it is wrong. I have moved a resolution. We have not gotten the seconder yet, but I'm asking to put it on the floor, you see, so that we can send a letter of censure. I know that you are trying to get around it, sir, right? I don't know if you have friends there or whatever, but it is wrong, sir. And wrong is wrong.
Mr. Burke, you have a motion on the floor.
Yes, ask for a seconder,
and
sir.
I didn't hear that. Okay. Can we have a seconder for that motion? That resolution?
Over there, sir. More than one.
Name, sir? Okay, noted. No. Can we have a vote on the resolution? Sorry, yes? I'm not hearing you. Okay, Mr. Burke, the resolution, sorry.
Perhaps I would vote, but I'm unclear as to what the motion is about.
Okay.
And secondly, could I be informed of what the procedures are as it relates to tabling a motion for, what is it called? Censorship. I'd like to be informed about that.
Any member has a right to move any motion in the credit union.
The resolution
Any
can
member.
go out any member, right?
Highest authority in the meeting. Any
Okay.
member has a right.
Mr. Burke, at the beginning of the meeting, I related our order of addressing the meeting. Can you stick to it, please, sir? Yes. Thank you very much. Mr. Burke, can you respect the chair, sir?
He's covering up, sir.
Thank you very much. Okay. The motion, as I understand it, is that the resolution that's been moved is that a strong letter be sent to the league indicating that they misled the credit union, COK, Sodality Credit Union, in expending money to attend an AGM which was not held. Am I right, sir?
Yes.
Good. So that is the motion on the floor. And we have a seconder for that. Can we know that there's an understanding of the motion, can we put it to the vote? Okay, can we, before we put to the vote, can we have a discussion on the resolution?
Can I speak, sir?
Okay, sure. And sir, well again, no, sir. Again,
They're trying to make sure it's not
Persons who wish to speak, please do not shout out of line. Please wait to be recognized, give your name, and speak. We will not, in this meeting, tolerate any shouting. That is why I spoke with him, sir. And we have, yes. Okay, that's an oversight on the chair, sir. Thank you for the reminder, sir. Can you have your name, sir? Mr. Morrison. First name? Colin Morrison. Thank you, sir.
And the lady who spoke before is Mrs. Maureen Dwyer. Can I just give... Oh, I'm sorry.
We were discussing the proposal. My name is Dana Webster, and I'm just kind of piggybacking on words. Now, the statement that was made regarding that letter that we're going to send to the league, can I get that repeated? Because it sounds like a negative. I listened to the discussion, and what I think the letter should say is that we request the league to give a specific itinerary and agenda so that the credit union can know what is going to be done at the convention, whether or not the AGM is going to be involved. And so the credit union can decide whether or not it will participate. Yes?
Thank you. Can I put this in perspective? The Credit Union League has its convention and annual general meeting annually. Each credit union has delegates and alternate delegates that go to the convention and annual general meeting. Some credit unions actually are able to send more than their delegates to these. In the course of the convention, there are seminars and workshops aimed at educating or reinforcing some of the issues that arise in the course of doing business as a credit union. The league had expected that the annual general meeting would have taken place. Now, one of the main reasons why there's an annual general meeting, or one of the main things that happen in an annual general meeting, is that the audited financial statements are presented. The league discovered while the convention was going on, that the auditors had not completed or had that audited report in the condition that could have been presented to the meeting. And so, and I can say this because I happen to have been there, I was the guest speaker at their award ceremony. And at that point, the directors of the league had to make a decision that the AGM part of the weekend would have been deferred for another date to be held in Kingston. That is what happened. I don't think that it is fair to say that the league called the credit unions there under false pretenses. They had expected to have had the annual general meeting, but as it unfolded, it was not ready. And so it was put off for another time when delegates came to the conference center, I think, to have the annual general meeting part of the weekend. Okay. In COK's case, at no additional cost. And I don't think that it would be fair to say that the money that was spent for delegates to go to the convention would have been wasted, because there were many, many workshops in marketing, talking about the regulations that were coming, and other issues that were discussed, important things that were discussed. It's just that the AGM portion of that agenda was deferred.
Well, thanks for the...
Thank you.
Thanks for the clarification. I'm sure if we had heard that before, we would have long passed this point. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, sir. Name?
Yes, sir. My name is Ricardo Myers.
Okay.
Ricardo is spelled by E and not an I. What I was trying to say, sir, is that in repeating the motion by Mr. Burke, you omitted a vital part of what he said, which is that the COK attended this meeting at irrecoverable cost, and that I'm repeating what he said. I'm putting the context which he said. This was omitted by the chair when he was repeating the motion. Mr. Burke's motion is that the league invited COK and other credit union to the conference, to this meeting, which would be a conference and general AGM, and that the AGM was not held. Hence, the COK, by his word, incurred irrecoverable cost. And he is expecting that a letter will be sent to the league to indicate that this is not acceptable. And in future, if something like this happens, then the COK should be, the credit union should be informed in time so it does not incur that cost.
Thank you, sir. But you have heard the explanation.
Is that it, Mr. Burke?
Right, because you don't have to attend an
Yes, sir.
No, that we have heard from the
CEO.
The CEO.
Yes.
We have something to vote on. But you should put everything that he said. Omitting the part about the financial costs, you know, I think that was important.
Okay, sir.
Having heard from the CEO, that put a different light on the thing, but we should have the motion, the full motion to vote on.
Noted, sir. Now that you have heard the resolution and the various discussions and explanation, can we put this to a vote? Those in favor? Those against? Motion is defeated. Thank you very much. This time we will again invite the treasurer. Oh, sorry. We have one more report, delegate report, which is the Fishermen's Cooperative League, and this will be presented by you, Ms. Ambassador Samba.
Thank you, Mr. President. The report of the delegates to the annual general meeting of the Jamaica Fishermen's Cooperative Union Limited is presented on pages 85 and 86. The meeting was held at the Knutsford Court Hotel on April 25th, 2017. COK was represented by myself, Mr. Neverone, and Mr. Michael Burke. The report is there. The highlight was that Mr. Burke was nominated to the, I'm trying to find it, to represent the Fishermen's Co-op at NUCS. NUCS is the National Union of Cooperative Societies, which is the umbrella organization of all cooperatives, and that includes credit unions as well as the Fishermen's Cooperative and other productive cooperatives. The meeting was addressed by the minister, and you will see a report of his presentation. The board presented the challenges being faced by fishers, and the minister recognized that over 200,000 persons' lives in Jamaica are impacted by the Fishermen's Cooperative Union. The board of the union spoke about their facilitating and representing the stakeholders in the oil survey process which was taking place on the South Coast, and also the dredging of the Kingston Harbor. They spoke about the kinds of training that was being done and the assistance that they got from international and other agencies to assist with the training. So that is the report on behalf of the delegates. Can I have somebody move for the adoption of the report? Moved by Mr. Sullivan, seconded by Ms. Jackie Daly. Thank you. All those in favor of accepting the report? Thank you.
Thanks again, Ambassador. We are now moving to the next item on the agenda, which is the fixing of the maximum liability. As is customary, we invite the chair, the treasurer, Mr. Johan Millen, to. Oh, before that, Mr. Millen can take a little more rest, and we'll ask Director Michael Martin to present the education report.
Good afternoon, fellow cooperators. The report of the Education Committee is on pages 87 and 88 of your report, and I ask for a motion that it be taken as read. Moved by Mr. Wood, James Wood, and seconded by Mr. Courtney Winter. All in favor? Any against? Any abstentions? Thank you, cooperators. The Education Committee is a subcommittee of the board. And it has a responsibility, among other things, for the continuing education of COK members and the development, organization, and evaluation of educational programs for the members, primarily. The members of the committee is recorded in the report, and the committee convened 4 meetings during 2016 at which it reviewed the education policy and discussed fundraising activities to support the award of scholarships. It was the intention that we would try to raise some money outside of what the credit union would normally have provided, but that wasn't possible during the course of the year. The scholarships broadly were the Bertie Morris Scholarship, the Carter Carter Scholarship, the Trevor Blake Scholarship, the Paul Chevans Scholarship, and a grant was also awarded by the Margaret Rogers Foundation. The details of those scholarships and grants are in the report. This report is for information and therefore doesn't require a move or an adoption of the report. I want to thank you, members. I don't think you have any questions, do you? Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. We now invite the treasurer, Mr. Johan Millen, to present the motion for the setting the maximum liability. Mr. Millen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Resolution for fixing of the maximum liability resolution. In keeping with Rule 70, it is proposed that the maximum liability to 31st December 2017 be set at $12 billion, being 12 times the 2016 total capital inclusive of deferred shares of $500 million, which is projected at $1 billion. Yes. The resolution is hereby moved by myself, the treasurer, And it is now before you for a seconder. Livingston Young. Okay, seconded by Mr. Livingston Young. Can we have a vote? Can I have it for the ayes? All those in favor? Aye. All those against? Are there any abstentions? The ayes have it. Thank you. The motion carries. Over to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. We now move to item 9 on the agenda, which is the appointment of the returning officer. The Honorable Donna Parchment Brown, CD, the political ombudsman, to preside over the election as returning officer. She'll be ably assisted by representatives from the registrar office and from the league's office. The nomination committee report has been found on pages 78 to 81 of the annual report, and I now invite the chairman of the nominating committee, Mr. Clive Medwinter, to present the report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Honorable Donna Parchment, the fellow corporators, good afternoon. I'm very pleased to be reporting the report of the nominating committee. It's found on pages 78 to 81. May I take it as read? Moved by. Seconded by. Okay, thank you very much, sir. Mr. Chairman, may I just introduce my committee member to you? Sure. These members, we have Mr. Garter Sullivan, who I don't think need an introduction, for 43 years in the credit union. And we have a very special man with us, Most Reverend Bertrand McPherson. I'd like to recognize. Now, this is a gentleman who lives in Montego Bay, and he has taken time out to be at the 11 o'clock meeting every time it is called, and he's always there before me. That is what we call commitment, and I really want to give my full recognition to the Most Reverend. But sometimes it's 5 minutes out. But certainly, I really have a lot of respect for the Most Reverend. And we also have the Ambassador Luna as the ex-officio member support. We have Tina Livingston, where is she? Of course. And of course, the staff liaison admin, Ms. Antoinette Lynch. I want to really thank my committee for the support given, because this is a very difficult task. Given the mandate in line with Rule 65A and the list of criteria laid out, in particular, the area of fit and proper, which, as you know, our regulator is very strict on that. And we assume in full recognition that each nominee would have met all the criteria laid out in terms of how you treat your loan, how your willingness to serve, all that is taken into perspective. And Mr. Chairman, I therefore would like to present a list of persons recommended. And when I call your name for the recommended, could you just show your hands for recognition? Retiring, sir, Mr. Stedman Peterson. Recommended, Mr. Stedman Peterson for 2 years. Ms. Marjorie Shaw, retiring. Mrs. Marjorie Shaw, recommended for 2 years. Ms. Carol Anglin, retiring. And Ms. Carol Anglin, recommended for 2 years. Let me say this, that we as the nominating committee is indeed very pleased to have recognized the members who have been asked to serve, and we so do wish them all the best in the future. Thank you. May I at this time invite the Honorable Donna Parchment.
Brown, you leave up the brown. Again.
Donna Parchment Brown. My humble apologies.
Fellow cooperators, regulators, and guests of COK Sodality Cooperative Credit Union, good afternoon. Thank you for the honor and pleasure of conducting our elections, and congratulations to the nominating committee for doing the work that is required of them. I think it's okay to forget this part of the name every now and again. Like how my father is dead and gone, I really need to keep that part going. So, to the business at hand. For the board of directors, and I'm going to invite the retiring members who are seated on the platform to join the company in the rest of in the hall. So for the board of directors, the nominating committee has made some recommendations. Retiring Mr. Stedman Peterson, and recommended for a 2-year term, Mr. Stedman Peterson. He was standing here. There, okay, that's Mr. Peterson. Mrs. Marjorie Shaw, retiring, and recommended Mrs. Marjorie Shaw for a period of 2 years. Retiring Ms. Carol Anglin, and recommended for a period of 2 years, Ms. Carol Anglin. Retiring Mr. Trevor Blake, and a new recommendation of Mr. Ewan Shaw. Mr. Shaw, who is a lecturer at the University of Technology, Jamaica, and he's recommended for a period of 2 years. Mrs. Debbie Ann Gordon Crawford, retiring, and she's recommended for a new term of 2 years. Reverend Michael Lewis, as you heard earlier, resigned, and Mrs. Jacqueline Lynch Stewart, attorney at law, has been recommended to complete the 1 year of his term. Mr. Ewan Millen is retiring, and Mr. Maurice Lewin, is he here? Please stand, Mr. Lewin, Director, Human Resource Management and Development at the Bureau of Standards, has been nominated to replace Mr. Millen. Those are the nominations from the committee. And so I put to the floor, are there any other nominations for the board of directors? Are there any other nominations for the board of directors? Third and final time, any other nominations for the board of directors? For the persons named as nominees, any opposed? Abstaining? Those in favor? Thank you very much. So the nominees, Mr. Stedman Peterson, Mrs. Marjorie Shaw, Ms. Carol Anglin, Mr. Ewan Shaw, Mrs. Debbie Ann Gordon Crawford, Mrs. Jacqueline Lynn Stewart, Mr. Maurice Lewin have all been duly elected as the members of the board of directors of COK Sodality Cooperative Credit Union Limited. I see no objection from our regulators, so I will proceed to the credit committee. We'll hear from the chairman of the nominating committee in relation to the credit committee before we take the vote.
Thank you very much, Honorable. I would not make that mistake again by leaving the Brown House. But I'd like to recognize Ms. Facey from the registrar, who pointed out a few modifications to the credit committee. The credit committee will now be down to 7 members. The rule as outlined stipulate that it could be no less than 3, and we're coming from 9, but we're now down to 7 members. My good friend Mr. Beckford and Donna Pommel of the credit committee position was not replaced. The same thing with the supervisory committee. Carol Williams and Alston Reed, their position were taken off, primarily for the question of efficiency and cost, and in keeping with the rule as outlined. The other thing I'd like to point out, based on the recommendation of, or should I say, the correction noted by the registrar, is that there are 2 members. Mr. Patrick Galbraith, in 2016, was asked to serve for 2 years. And Mrs. Sharon Usem was also asked to serve for 2 years. The report has it that they will be served, that Patrick will serve for 2 years and Ms. Usem. What it should be is that no consideration should be given to those 2 persons. Ms. Facey? In addition to that, Mr. Ron Townsend, who is recommended to serve for 2 years, will now be asked to serve for 1, in keeping with the regulatory expectation. Those are the corrections that I'd like to make to the nominating committee report. I thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. That's quite helpful, and I expect to get a little more guidance as we go along here. I'm coming to the credit committee. Yes, Dr. Sykes' name is spelled correctly in the book. So for the credit committee, and I just want to make this point that my impression is that for the credit union, 5 is a good optimal number of members. Am I correct? That 5 is a great working number for the committee. 3, which is a minimum, is a little too small for us. So that 7 is not a standard number. At different AGMs, we may go up to 7 or not. But 5 for a long time was the number that the credit union utilized. Okay, so let us do the credit committee. So the nominees, the resigning, we have Mrs. Catherine Gregory, and a new nominee, Mr. Andrel Shirley. I'm going to ask him to stand. Andrel Jack Shirley, yes, who is a corporate professional. Mr. Ralston Hyman, retiring, replaced by, is it Mr. Vivian? Mr. Vivian Daly for a term of 2 years, as proposed for Mr. Shirley. Mr. Rowan Townsend, retiring and recommended, nominated for a further term of 2 years. One, it says 2 years. Okay. All right, so what you have in the book is not correct. It should be 1 year. I think it may have been corrected earlier. So 1 year for Mr. Townsend. Mr. Errol Gregory, retiring, and the nominees, Dr. Annette Sykes, consultant, something to do with when they put the thing over your face. Anesthesiologist, actually, isn't? Yes. Oh, she's over there. Anesthesiologist for a period of 2 years. She's at University Hospital of the West Indies. Mr. Galbraith does not need to be nominated because he is already in his, he was nominated for the 2 years and that's not expired, so he's not retiring, nor is Miss Usim. So those two are not retiring, therefore we have no new nominations. Then on retiring, Mrs. Jacqueline Lloyd Carter, and she is nominated for a further 2-year term. She's a financial advisor at Law Insurance Brokers Limited. Is she here? She had to go? She left? Okay. So those are the nominees for the Credit Committee: Mr. Andrew Jack Shirley, Mr. Vivian Daly, Mr. Ron Townsend for 1 year, Dr. Annette Sykes, and Mrs. Jacqueline Lloyd Carter. Are there any other nominations for the Credit Committee? Any other nominations for the Credit Committee? Third and last, any nominations for the Credit Committee? So the names of the nominees: Mr. Andrew Jack Shirley, Mr. Vivian Daly, Mr. Rowan Townsend, Dr. Annette Sykes, Mrs. Jacqueline Lloyd Carter. Anybody opposed? Any abstentions? Those in favor? So duly elected to the Credit Committee, a very, very, very important organ of our credit union that is built on the integrity of the members and adherence to policy. Mr. Shirley, Mr. Daly, Mr. Townsend, Dr. Sykes, and Mrs. Jacqueline Lloyd Carter. Now to the very important Supervisory Committee. Supervisory Committee is the conscience, the eyes and ears of the credit union to make sure everything is going well. The committee has indicated that Mrs. Herma Walker is retiring and has recommended Mr. Sridath Brown for a term of 1 year. Is he here? Please stand. Thank you very much. Mrs. Jacqueline Daly is retiring, and Miss Maureen Dwyer has been nominated for a term of 1 year. Please stand. Thank you. Mr. Arnold Breckenridge is retiring, and Mr. James Wood has been nominated. Thank you. Corporal William Graham is retiring, and he's been nominated for a further term of 1 year. All of them is a 1 year term. Ms. Charmaine Newsom, okay, wrong name here. Sharon Newsom? Where is she? Tell us your name. Charmaine, lovely. Somebody is very attentive, so it's good that we're taking care. So, Ms. Charmaine Newsom, retiring, and she's been nominated for a further term of 1 year. Mr. Enoch Allen, retiring and recommended for a term of 1 year. Enoch Allen. Finally, Ms. Philippa Edwards, who is retiring, and Mr. Kennel Blake has been nominated. So that's Mr. Sridath Brown, Ms. Maureen Dwyer, Mr. James Wood, Ms. Corporal William Graham, Ms. Charmaine Newsom, Mr. Enoch Allen, and Mr. Kennel Blake, all of them for a term of 1 year. Are there any other nominations to the Supervisory Committee? Any other nominations to the Supervisory Committee? Third and last, any other nominees for the Supervisory Committee? Any opposed? Any abstaining? Those in favor? Thank you very much. So we have duly elected a new Supervisory Committee for a period of 1 year. Mr. Sridath Brown, Ms. Maureen Dwyer, Mr. James Wood, Corporal William Graham, Ms. Charmaine Newsom, Mr. Enoch Allen, and Mr. Kennel Blake. Yes, you could give them a round of applause. They're going to be working very hard for us. The Jamaica Cooperative Credit Union League, delegates and alternate delegates. Retiring, Mrs. Jacqueline Mighty, and nominated Ambassador Loon Dambe Asamba. Retiring, Mr. Stedman Peterson, and nominated Mr. Stedman Peterson as delegates to the League for 1 year. Alternate delegates, Mr. Orville Christie, and he's retiring and he's nominated for 1 year. Ms. Carol Anglin retiring and nominated for 1 year. Are there any other nominees to the Jamaica Cooperative Credit Union League? Delegates or alternate delegates? Are there any other nominees to the League? Third and last, are there any other nominees to the League? Any opposed? Any abstaining? Those in favor? Thank you very much. So we have duly elected Mrs. Ambassador Alun Dambe Asamba, Mr. Stedman Peterson as delegates to the League, and Mr. Orville Christie and Ms. Carol Anglin as alternate delegates to the League. Jamaica Fishermen's Cooperative Union. The retiring is Mr. Neville Roan, and he's been recommended for another year, Mr. Neville Roan. Mr. Michael Burke, retiring, and Mr. Burke has been nominated for another year. Retiring, Mrs. Jacqueline Mighty, and nominated is Ambassador Loon Dambe Asamba. Are there any other nominees? Are there any other nominees? Third and last, are there any other nominees? Are there being no other nominees? Are there any opposed? Any abstaining? Those in favor? Thank you very much. So we have duly elected Mr. Neville Roan, Mr. Michael Burke, and Ambassador Loon Dambe Asamba to represent us at the Jamaica Fishermen's Cooperative Union. The final group to be elected, they are to the Jamaica Cooperative Insurance Agency Limited. Retiring, Ms. Carol Anglin, nominated Ms. Carol Anglin. Retiring, Mrs. Jacqueline Mighty, nominated Ambassador Loon Dambe Asamba. They will serve for a period of 1 year, as was the case with the Fishermen's Cooperative Union. Are there any other nominees? Are there any other nominees? Third and last, are there any other nominees to the Jamaica Cooperative Insurance Agency Limited? Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Those in favor? Thank you very much. So we have elected Ms. Carol Anglin and Ambassador Loon Dambe Asamba to represent us for 1 year at the Jamaica Cooperative Insurance Agency Limited. Please give all our newly elected members a warm round of applause. They are fully aware of the requirements for certain meetings to be held in a certain time. May I congratulate the committee for the good work they have done, and thank you, my fellow COK Sodality members, for the excellent manner in which you allowed the elections to proceed. Thank you so much.
Fellow cooperators, give another round of applause to the Honorable Donna Parchment Brown. Yes. Big her up. I certainly, would like to thank Donna Parchment Brown, the Honorable, for so able conducting this election. I mean, you have done it so smoothly, so effectively, and we really appreciate your effort. Let me at this time welcome the new directors, Credit and Supervisory Committee members. And may I at this point in time invite those new directors to sit. Fine, they're here already, great. Let me say, guys, it's not an easy road. Bush just said that, and he will say it again. Volunteerism is not an easy task, and you have to prepare yourself to give it your best shot. But I want to say thanks to those persons who are retiring. As I look in the audience, I see persons that I've worked with for more than 15 years. I want to recognize the chairman of the Supervisory Committee, Carol Williams, who has been around for 20 years. Such dedication is really, cannot say thank you. I see Errol Gregory and Mr. Errol Beckford, who have really given sterling contribution to the credit committee. I'm going to miss you guys. And I really hope we can continue to share, look at strategies, deliberate from time to time, because you're all about making this great movement something worthwhile. And I really want to ask you to recognize them in my own way by giving them a round of applause. Mr. Chairman, that should conclude my section of this AGM. I thank you very much.
10 days.
You know, I'm the new kid on the block, so there are a few things that I will probably not say. But I'm being reminded here that in 10 days' time, within that slot, the various committees, supervisory credit, will be asked to, as well as the board, to convene their first meeting to elect their officers accordingly. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Clive, for a well-executed election, and thank you again, the Director of Elections, for your efficient work. We now move to item 11, which is a resolution. I'd like to invite Director Debian Gordon Crawford, Chair of the Rule Book Subcommittee of the Board, to take the meeting to a resolution to amend Rule 65 by substituting for existing Rule 65 a new Rule 65. The resolution can be found on pages 89 and 91. Debbie?
Yes, I'm here. Fellow cooperators, good afternoon. Thank you for your participation so far, and we welcome your further participation now in respect of this resolution. To give you some background, the registrar of the Department of Cooperatives issued to all credit unions a directive, which is akin to a guide, for credit unions to adopt a new method and mechanism for the appointment, for the nomination and appointment of officers of the credit union. The Rules Book Committee met, and it's an appropriate time for me to thank the committee. We deliberated long and hard over the registrar's recommendations, which we have now placed before you. And just to introduce you to the committee, Mr. Mike Martin. Mr. Martin, stand. Ms. Carol Anglin. We had the full support of Ambassador Luna Sambo. COK's legal advisor, Rasheen Benton. Rasheen is here? Okay. And the internal auditor for COK, Richardo Jones. I invite you to look at pages 89 to 91 of the annual report. And outlined there is a resolution to amend the rules. The objective here is to have the nomination committee of the Board of COK meet well in advance, ahead at least 120 days, 4 months before the annual general meeting. And at that meeting, the nominating committee will look in a very studied and considered way the vacancies that are available within the credit union. The nominating committee will then advise the general membership of these vacancies, and the intention is to have the membership participate more fulsomely in the nomination of officers to the credit union by way of a where you will submit a form for someone you're considering a member who should fit into a position, a vacant position available, and that petition must be supported by other members. And so I'm going to invite you to, okay, this is a resolution, it's a special resolution, so we will have to take a vote. Looking at page 80, 90, 91, the resolution is outlined there. We'd like to take a motion to treat it as having been read. May I have a mover? Yes. Thank you, Political Ombudsman. May I have a seconder? Yes. Who is it? Pat, I'm sorry, I'm getting a name. Pat Walker, I'm told. Mr. Wood, thank you. Having read the resolution, can we have a motion for the passing of that resolution? No, we should have a debate. There is a motion for a discussion or a debate on the resolution. Thank you, sir. Would you like to start the discussion?
I don't know. My name is Michael Burke, for the record. I don't know. For the record, I am totally opposed to the resolution. It is at the heart of democracy that there must be nominations from the floor. It should not be decided by the board. And as a matter of fact, I think the resolution, if passed, would be ultra vires. I am prepared, if I can afford it, if I can get people together, that if this goes through, to have a class action suit against the registrar. The idea of a cooperative is that you have a nominating committee, yes, and that if people don't like it, it's brought to the floor. It is not an in-house thing where a few people decide who must sit on the board. Already, over the years, there has been a tendency to downplay credit union education in most of our credit unions. And that is why people do not attend meetings, because a meeting like of COK should be in a place like the National Arena, quite frankly, so that everybody participates and votes and understands how the credit union is run. There are attempts to take away what is known as cooperative principles. Quite frankly, I do not think that outside of the registrar's office, that there are 10 people, I would say 5, inside this room right now who are sufficiently versed in cooperative principles to know how much this resolution is ultra-virus. At the heart of the equality of cooperatives, there must be elections. I know the whole fit and proper rule and so forth. Well, as a former minister once said to the Bank of Jamaica, they must fix that. When they needed to put in that fit and proper rule, it was the banks that were creating trouble, not the credit unions, and the credit unions stood up. I know it will be easier for the registrar rather than going through the whole fit and proper thing. I think that we should try and change that, because in this way they don't have to go through and find out who is fit and who is proper. And also the clique and the club that operates between the credit union league and the credit unions and so forth, where they can sort of pull the wool over the eyes of people over the years, will now be sealed for all times. But in any case, I think that in terms of the law, the Cooperative Act, it will be ultra-virus in any case, right? But I am totally opposed to it, and I'm hoping that this credit union will not vote for it. I think it needs 75% of who is here, and I'm hoping that they will not vote for it. They will be voting away their rights in the way that the House of Assembly voted away its rights in 1865 before the Morant Bay Rebellion, when we went back to our Crown Colony government. And I would say, and I know, I see that people are getting jittery, and they are going up there to give their version of things. And I know that it has probably the support of the political ombudsman, and all like that, and so forth. But believe me, right? A lot of these people are friends, right? And there are a lot of things that they don't want the public to know, right? A lot of things that happen in the movement that they don't want the public to know. And they pull the wool over people's eyes all the time. Do not, I ask this meeting, pass this resolution. In any case, it will be ultra-virus, I think. Thank you.
Thank you for your contribution. Can I invite any other member to make a contribution? Can I invite the membership to make a contribution? Yes, sir. Can you give your name? Speak to the microphone. In the interim, I am urging the membership to please look at pages 89 to 91 of your annual report. Members, please turn to pages 89 to 91. Outlined there is the proposed resolution. So I'm just asking you to read it on your own so you can see what the resolution is proposing to ask you to make a decision on. Yes, sir.
Mike, I was just going to say the same thing you're saying.
Okay.
Okay?
Yes. We thank you for your contribution, Mr. Burke. It's a members' organization, and all members are at liberty to share their views.
Did I stop anybody?
Indeed not. We welcome, we thank you for your contribution. So for example, I wanted to bring to your attention, in addition to reading the entire nomination process that is now proposed, the rule contemplates that within 120 days, that's 4 months before a meeting, the annual general meeting held every year, the members will be notified of the vacancies available within the credit union. So if we have 4 board vacancies, 2 board vacancies, members of the credit committee not taking positions, if we have vacancies on the supervisory committee, whatever those vacancies are, the nominating committee will be required to publish those vacancies for all members to see, so that the membership can then submit its own nomination for those positions. It goes on to tell you what the nomination committee must do, what steps it must take in advising you. It must advertise those vacancies in every credit union of COK, in every place of business. It must have all those forms available for the membership for consideration by the nominating committee. Yes, Mr. Winter.
Thank you. Contrary to Member Burke, I think this presents a little more transparency in the nomination process. But I just need some clarification. The first question is whether or not the credit union is going to now involve itself with fit and proper assessments, or is that going to be outsourced to the likes of Bank of Jamaica or somewhere else, or the league? And the second question is, we are asking members to nominate persons.
Yes.
The staff are also members of
Yes.
the credit union. So is it likely that a staff member could sit as a board of director or the credit committee or the supervisory committee?
Well, we could take the last question first. I think to the extent that the staff policy speaks to that, the staff policy speaks to positions of governance that the staff may or may not assume for reasons of conflict. So to the extent that there would be no conflict, that position could be taken up, but to the extent that the staff policy does not allow a member of staff to also sit as an officer of the credit union, then that would not be allowed. And yes, they could be nominated. Oh, certainly the staff are members of the credit union, so they are at liberty to take the forms that will be available in all the branches of the credit union and to put in their nomination by way of a petition. And the petition is a form that requires other members to support the nomination of that member. You asked another question in relation to the fit and proper questionnaire. All officers of the credit union currently must undergo a fit and proper approval by the Bank of Jamaica, by the several regulatory bodies at the moment. So the credit union will seek to get a no objection to members who are nominated, and thereafter it will go through that formal process of having the regulators approve that individual to sit as an officer of the credit union. Before the election, before the AGM. Yes, Mr. Hickey, could you introduce yourself?
Dennis Hickey. Courtney made one point which I support, that the 4 months, is 4 months, 90 days?
4 months.
4 months gives, I think it in my opinion, is a welcome change, because the way it has been conducted in the past wouldn't have given members so much time to be certain about the people they want to recommend. And just to say that in the past, every time and the members should know this before you support such a move as put forward by Mr. Burke, I am yet to see an occasion where people are just nominated from the floor without the proper checks and balances. That has turned out to be a good selection in the leadership of the credit union. So 4 months, I believe, members, does give. Yeah, you were nominated to some board and it wasn't a success, Mr. Burke. We know that from the floor. But Mr. Burke, just please allow me. We've been around long enough with this thing. So members, before you hold up the process and support such a move, be mindful that the 4 months is giving you greater authority, greater participation in being able to select the people who are going to lead this credit union.
Thank you for your contribution, Mr. Hickey. Members of the credit union, yes, ma'am, come forward, please. In the interim, I'll just alert you as the rules book committee in looking at these rules. The nominating committee will need to assemble that list of willing and qualified candidates
on
for
a point
office.
of order. I have been slandered and I want an apology.
I beg your pardon, I didn't hear a slander.
I have been slandered and I want an apology. Because I don't know of any board that I was elected to from 1989 to 1993, when I was on the GSB board and re-elected, or on the very last year of the church's credit union when I was a member of the board. I do not know of that. That is slander, and I want an apology, otherwise I might take it somewhere else.
Thank you, Mr. Burke. Thank you. I didn't hear it. I didn't. Thanks for your contribution. The minutes will reflect whether that statement constituted slander or not. Could you state your name for the record? I was going on to say that.
Okay. My name is Karen Miller, and I am not understanding this resolution thing. Now, where an ordinary member can vote. I am an ordinary Jamaican. I am not an attorney at law. I am not a lecturer. I am none of those things. So what I need to know, this fit and proper, what are you talking about?
The fit and proper is not done by, the fit and proper approval is not undertaken by the credit union at all. Because the credit union is regarded in law as a specified financial institution, the persons who serve in the capacity as a board member or a member of the credit committee that approves loans, or the supervisory committee that regulates the conduct of the board and the happenings of the operations of the organization, those persons must go through an independent rigor of being assessed as to whether they are bankrupts, whether they have been in any blemishes that would cause them to be perceived as persons who are not well thinking, whether they have been involved with the tax authorities in a way that may have rendered them unfit and improper. If it is they've been convicted of a criminal offense and they have not been acquitted, there are a number of factors that go into determining whether someone is fit and proper. But that approval is not given by COK at all. But once COK takes a nomination or an election for the position of a board member, it must then submit those names by law to the Bank of Jamaica and other regulators, who will then undergo their own fit and proper procedures. And it will then revert to COK to say whether that person can in fact serve in that capacity.
So anyone can become a board member?
Any one of us can become a board member. Mr. Hickey invited me many, many years ago to be part of COK on the supervisory committee.
You know why I asked that question? Because
yes,
on this nomination thing, I'm not seeing the ordinary Jamaican there.
Yes,
what I'm seeing is people who have them BSc, them attorney at law, the lecturer.
You would not have seen. You would not.
Jamaican
You have
there.
not read. You would not have seen that here.
Why?
You would not have
If
seen.
you're saying an ordinary board member can, so it means that if I just fit and proper, you say somebody who don't have but what I am seeing, or what I am understanding, is classism, because I am not seeing the ordinary Jamaican on that.
Okay.
Explain to me.
Yes.
As an ordinary Jamaican of this member, and if I want to become a committee member, because that's what I am getting from all that you are saying, you know.
Okay.
So
well, let me,
explain to me.
let me clarify. One moment, Mr. Crooks, let me clarify. First of all, ma'am, this is a members' organization.
Okay, because
once you are,
yes.
yes.
You said it's fit and proper.
Okay, take some
No,
time
you're
to listen.
explaining.
Take some time to listen to what I'm saying now. You are a member of COK, you are. Once you are a member and part of this members' organization, the privilege we have is that only among us can we comprise the board. Only among us can we benefit. Only among us can we lead and direct the credit union. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you. Yes. Well, thank you for coming to this meeting. It's your first meeting, and I hope you will leave with a better understanding of this very good, this membership organization that you're a part of. You own the you are one of the many members of this organization, and you can take a leadership role in this organization if you wish. Speak in the microphone. The other members want to hear what you're saying.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're not hearing what I'm saying. All right, this is my first meeting, because as I said, I had no interest before, because each time I would go to the credit union and I would look, I wouldn't see the ordinary Jamaican there listed to do things. So I didn't know how it operates, so I decided I want to come today. Right? Maybe you don't understand what I'm trying to say. Right? Answer me.
Mr. Crooks, state your name for the record, please.
My name is Errol Crooks. I have been an ordinary, as you say, I have never BSc, I have never have a doctorate.
Mr. Crooks, the membership is not hearing you.
No, to clarify, for clarification, I am an ordinary Jamaican who has spent actually 30 years between the supervisory and the credit committee. I haven't got a BSc, I haven't got an anesthetic qualification, or any AB, and you know, I'm honored. In other words, I'm not ashamed to state, when I became a member of the Supervisory Committee, I was just an ordinary postman. And I was just an ordinary postman working in the postal service. And I improved myself by the credit union send me on courses and improving myself, and any, what you call it now, in-service training in the postal service, because of the credit union whet my appetite. I continue to do those training and things, and when I left the postal service, I was a postmaster grade 3. All due to what the credit union done for me as an ordinary Jamaican.
So, Mr. Crooks, thank you so much. You forgot to mention that you're a Westmorite. You weren't just an ordinary Jamaican. But Mr. Crooks's testimony or Mr. Crooks's experience should demonstrate to all of us that this resolution is intended to have all of us ordinary members become an active participant in the leadership of the credit union. Yes, sir.
Andrew Brown.
Yes, Mr. Brown.
I think there will be more greater clarity if we explain to the membership what is the process that takes place now in connection with nominations versus where we are going with nominations. And they're better able to understand why this rule change is being put forward.
Yes, thank you for that. At the moment, the nominations committee meets and it compiles a list of persons who have submitted themselves or persons who they know, persons who the members of the nominating committee may know is interested in serving, because it's an unpaid position, it's a voluntary position, and persons who are part of that nominating committee will submit names, and members will also submit themselves. The nominating committee will meet and deliberate over those persons, and then that recommendation is taken to this AGM annual general meeting for consideration and for approval. In addition to that, the membership may similarly nominate someone during this meeting. The change that is being made is to adopt a more exclusive process inclusive process, inclusive to our membership, where long in advance of this meeting, we will prominently display in all the branches of COK and in the newspaper that COK has the following vacancies to be filled. And members may either submit themselves by way of a petition supported by other members. And that submission is put into the nomination committee, and the nomination committee deliberates. It seeks from those external parties who must now approve those persons. It seeks a no objection to them to say that, for example, the Bank of Jamaica would say it has no objection to this person being considered for nomination and election. We would then take that list of persons and names, all of whom, by the way, we would have secured from those persons the consent in advance. So if you're nominated, the nomination committee will ask you to confirm that you're agreeable to serving. The nomination committee will also ask you to read and understand the work that is required of you, the number of meetings that you will have to attend, the dedication and the time that is required to serve in these officer positions at COK. And once you agree and you sign to that, then we would not be wasting time if subsequently we've had members come onto the board and after a few meetings and doing a midnight shift, they don't return. we have to ask them for their resignation. So it is to orient persons also to understand what it involves. And once we have that consent, then we can come to you with a body of names of persons who have been assessed, who themselves have agreed to this process, who the regulators find also to be fit and proper. And thereafter, this body will elect those persons to serve as officers of the credit union. One moment, please. I have a question here. One moment. Yes, Dr. Sykes, Dr. Annette Sykes.
I'm Annette Crawford Sykes, for the record. I just would like to say that I'm an ordinary Jamaican, just like trying to serve an organization that I've been a part of for many years. It doesn't matter what is behind your name, or I was very happy. I was very happy to hear the postmaster general speaking. We all are in here, regardless of qualification, members of COK. That's how come we're in this
Thank
room.
you. Thank you so much for that contribution. Okay, I'm told by the chairman that I must now move on. Would you like to speak to the microphone? Yes, sir. Go ahead. State your name for the record here and then there. And then I'm told we have to close off.
Ricardo Myers. Just for clarity, what you just said, I was getting the impression that having submitted the names from the various branches, that the committee would do the due process and all those persons who are fit and proper, all those nominees would come to the meeting for selection.
Yes.
The annual general meeting.
It will come to the annual general meeting,
yes.
The annual meeting of this type. Every year, those names will be brought to this meeting for approval or election, yes.
Okay, so the committee wouldn't select at the 5 or the 7 and present to us. We would make the selection from
the membership makes an initial recommendation, and there's a nomination process where the membership nominates. Similarly, the committee, the nominating committee, can itself go through the same process of putting persons who are also members forward. Those names, having gone through the process, those names are then submitted to this body.
Okay, understood.
But being a